If you pulled up a map of Virginia's power grid from 10 years ago and compared it to what's being built right now, you would not recognize it. And nobody asked you if that was okay. 70,000 megawatts. That is the sum of pending power requests now sitting before Dominion Energy and the PJM grid operator, driven almost entirely by data center giants, Amazon, Google, Microsoft, and their suppliers across Virginia. To put that in perspective, Virginia's highest ever electricity demand, set during a scorching 2022 summer, was just 24,678 megawatts. The new requests nearly triple that record, not as a distant projection, but as real-time, stamped applications with addresses and deadlines. Between 2023 and 2025, contracted data center load in Virginia surged by 185%, according to sworn testimony before the State Corporation Commission. 185% growth in less than 3 years. This is not a gradual uptick. Dominion's Director of Data Center Practice confirmed 40,000 megawatts of requests by December 2024. By early 2026, the figure had soared to 70,000, as PJM's queue filled with large load projects, 12 gigawatts in 2024, 18 more in 2025, and a projected 30 in 2026. Each request is tied to a specific facility, a company, a deadline. The numbers are so vast that even regulatory dockets strain to keep pace. The State Corporation Commission's large load queue, formalized in docket 2026-011, is now the only way to track this surge, though the full list of applicants remains sealed. 70,000 megawatts means the grid must be rebuilt almost from scratch. New transmission corridors, substations, and gas plants will reshape Virginia's energy map, not for homes or small businesses, but for the relentless needs of big tech. The urgency is unmistakable, yet the public remains largely outside the process, as decisions made now will shape the Commonwealth for generations. Loudoun County, ground zero for the data center explosion, now faces a transmission project that slices straight through neighborhoods, parks, and school zones. Dominion Energy's Golden to Mars line is no minor upgrade. It's a 22-mile, 500 kilovolt corridor stretching from the Golden substation near Route 28 to the Mars substation just west of Dulles Airport. The engineering drawings call for steel towers up to 215 feet tall, dwarfing every house and tree in their path. 6 alternative routes are on the table, but every option means high voltage lines looming over homes, playgrounds, and public parks. The official route maps list more than 80 affected parcels, including residential blocks in Loudoun Valley Estates, where power lines would pass within 150 feet of backyards. Claude Moore Park, the Broad Run W and OD Trail, and even Guilford Elementary School fall within the visual impact zone. County planners estimate that over 840 homes sit inside the primary buffer, with some families facing the prospect of a tower's shadow crossing their property for hours each day. One Loudoun grandmother, at a packed public hearing, described how the line would run so close to her house, her grandchildren would see the wires from their bedroom windows. The backlash is massive. At the State Corporation Commission's hearing in December 2025, more than 1,000 written statements and around 500 speakers filled the docket, the vast majority in fierce opposition. Residents, parents, and local officials lined up to demand undergrounding, alternative routes, or outright rejection. The county board has formally called for any segment within 500 feet of a home or school to be buried, but Dominion's filings dismiss this as too expensive. Meanwhile, property value studies circulated by the planning department predict a combined $252 million loss for homeowners along the corridor. For Loudoun, these are not abstract numbers. They are lost equity, fractured communities, and a skyline permanently altered, all to serve a data center demand that most residents never agreed to shoulder. Dominion Energy's Chesterfield project is a 944 megawatt natural gas peaker plant, stamped with State Corporation Commission approval in November 2025. The order, buried in docket PUR 2025-00037, declares an imminent reliability threat and hands Dominion a blank check, $1.47 billion in costs, to be recovered from ratepayers across Virginia. That is not just Chesterfield County's burden. Every household, every business, every school in the Commonwealth gets the bill, all to keep the lights on for data centers that most residents will never set foot in. The contradiction is glaring. Virginia's Clean Economy Act, passed with fanfare in 2020, sets a legal mandate for a 100% carbon-free grid by 2045. Yet here is the SCC, the state's top regulator, greenlighting a massive new fossil-fueled plant, one designed to run only when data center demand threatens to overwhelm the grid. Environmental groups, including the Southern Environmental Law Center and Appalachian Voices, flooded the docket with objections, pointing to the law's plain language. The Commission's final order sidesteps the statute, citing reliability as the trump card. Dominion's own filings admit this is a stopgap, not a solution, but the infrastructure and the cost will outlast any tech boom. Once approved, these plants are locked into rate base for decades. Their emissions and expenses baked into Virginia's future, regardless of what the law or the public ever intended. Amazon's push for data center power in Virginia now extends far beyond transmission lines and gas plants. In October 2024, Amazon and Dominion signed a memorandum of understanding to explore small modular nuclear reactors at the North Anna site, targeting a 300 megawatt pilot. Amazon has already committed $500 million to X Energy, aiming to secure up to 5 gigawatts of small modular nuclear reactor capacity for its global cloud operations. This isn't just a headline, it's a realignment of Virginia's energy future around the needs of a single corporate sector. The U.S. Navy joined the nuclear push in June 2025, entering its own memorandum of understanding with Dominion for a 200 megawatt marine-compatible small modular nuclear reactor at Naval Weapons Station Yorktown. Meanwhile, Google has inked a 200 megawatt power purchase agreement with Commonwealth Fusion Systems, tying its next generation of Virginia data centers to a $2.5 billion 400 megawatt fusion pilot in Chesterfield County. Each of these deals is framed as a clean energy breakthrough, yet every dollar spent on small, modular, nuclear reactor or fusion development is rate-based, meaning Virginia households will help foot the bill long before a single electron flows to the grid. Senate Bill 454, passed in December 2025, allows Dominion to recover up to 80% of small modular nuclear reactor costs from customers up front, regardless of whether the technology ever delivers. The story is clear. Big Tech's appetite for power is driving not just fossil fuel expansion, but a nuclear and fusion build-out on a scale no Virginia voter ever approved. The grid is being redrawn to serve cloud giants, with the costs and the risks locked in for decades. Senate Bill 454, passed by the General Assembly in December 2025, rewrites the rules on who pays for Virginia's energy overhaul. The law gives Dominion Energy the power to recover up to 80% of small modular nuclear reactor costs from customers before a single watt is produced. But the reach goes further. Dominion's $7.6 billion transmission expansion, engineered to serve the relentless data center build-out, now lands squarely on the backs of ordinary Virginians. According to the company's own filings, 55% of these costs are assigned to residential ratepayers. That's more than half of every dollar spent on new towers, substations, and high-voltage corridors, all added to household bills through regulated rates. The State Corporation Commission, which once had the authority to scrutinize and reject excessive charges, now finds its hands tied by the legislative text of Senate Bill 454. The law locks in cost recovery for advanced nuclear, fusion pilots, and transmission upgrades, regardless of whether these projects serve the public or simply fulfill the power appetites of Amazon, Google, and Microsoft. For families in Loudoun, Chesterfield, and beyond, the result is not just higher monthly bills. It's a forced investment in a grid designed around big tech, with no opt-out and no meaningful public vote. The financial risk, once borne by utility shareholders, has quietly shifted to every household in Virginia. The real price of this transformation will show up on kitchen tables and in shrinking home values for decades to come. Lockridge and Sojourner, two new high-voltage substations, are set to rise in Loudoun County, pushing the total to 14. Just a decade ago, there were 12. Now, the ratio is tightening. One substation for every 4.5 public schools, a density unheard of anywhere else in Virginia. These are not tucked behind warehouses or hidden in industrial zones. They are landing next to homes, playgrounds, and parks, transforming the landscape of entire neighborhoods. GIS overlays from the county show the new builds encroaching on residential buffers, erasing the old boundaries between family life and utility infrastructure. The market tells its own story. A property value analysis circulated by the Loudoun Planning Department warns of a $252 million hit to homeowners along these corridors. That is not a theoretical loss. It is equity, stripped from families who watched the skyline change overnight. For every new substation, another stretch of ordinary suburbia is redrawn as power infrastructure, with no public vote and no way to undo what has been built. The pushback is growing louder, but the clock is ticking. The Virginia Data Center Reform Coalition now brings together more than 50 organizations, homeowner groups, environmental watchdogs, and independent researchers united in their demand for a moratorium on unchecked grid expansion. Their filings flood State Corporation Commission dockets, challenging every new line, every plant, every substation. In Richmond, the 2026 legislative session has become a battleground, with over 60 bills introduced to rein in the industry, tighten zoning, and force real transparency on cost recovery. Yet the machinery of approval grinds on. Each new tower, pipeline, and reactor comes with a promise that it will serve for 40, 50, even 60 years. Once steel is in the ground, there's no rewind. These decisions outlive political cycles, outlast the boom times, and shape the daily reality of Virginia's communities for generations. The fight is not just about the next bill or the next election. It's about whether Virginians will have any say before their energy future is locked in permanently. Dominion's 500 kilovolt towers in Prince William, gas plants in Chesterfield, and substations from Loudoun to Caroline are not just lines on a map. They are verdicts on Virginia's future. These structures outlast elections and promises. The question is simple: who lives with the consequences, and for how many lifetimes? Drop your thoughts below.